Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are here with more news and politics. This is for the day of Wednesday, December the 13th, 2023. Now, it's been a while since I've done a news and politics video, but yeah. First thing here, we've got a discussion from Ask Historians. Were Americans always seen as loud and dumb by Europeans, or is this a recent thing? Uh, Basically, like in 1790, 1820, 1880, 1920, were Americans perceived as dumb and loud by Europeans and I guess other countries, or is this a recent phenomenon? If not, then how did Europeans view Americans back then? Did they have respect for them or see them as a progressive, civilized democracy, or did they dislike them? Karl Marx saw America as the most progressive country on the planet, so I guess that exemplifies how much its reputation has changed over the years. And the biggest answer we get here, uh, I can only speak for Norway from 1880 onwards. But to the extent Norway is a part of Europe, maybe it can take you part of the way. It is worth noting that between 1825 and 1925, more than 800,000 Norwegians immigrated to North America, a big number whose significance is underlined by it being a full one-third of the total Norwegian population at the time. Some went to Canada or otherwise, but the majority went to the US. So it still makes Norway second only to Ireland in terms of proportion of population having immigrated to the US. Thus, practically everyone born in my grandparents' generations between 1912 and 1921 had relatives or friends of their parents who had immigrated to the US. I mean, just that in and of itself explains a lot. Because the US for a long time was seen as the place for ideas and new starts. But it seems to be the baby boom era and later that things go south. And he gives a pretty good breakdown here. The interwar period 20 to 40 between World War I and World War II. Then came World War II, the Restoration years 40 to 70. Yeah. Northern Norway was liberated by Soviet forces, and the main contribution of Norway to the war was probably being the merchant navy that ferried most of the Lend Lease material across the U boat, Luftwaffe, and iceberg infested North Atlantic from the US to Soviet ports. Thus, while Norwegians did understand, acknowledge, and appreciate the crucial role the US had as the arsenal of democracy, there was also a feeling that Americans had taken their sweet fucking dime in deciding to help and could perhaps be a bit more tactful, strutting about pretending they had won the war alone when in fact, from a European perspective, had suffered very little. So the post war years is where I see the first roots of dumb and loud stereotype. American economy had been supercharged by being the only major industrial power whose factories and workforce were not reduced to skeletons and rubble. And while the 30s had been hard on the US too, they had been even harder on Europe. So, yeah, like I was saying, the baby boom era post World War II, 40 to 60 is when the baby boom generation were born. They say 40 to 70. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, this is when we see a lot of the stupid shit start to really go on. I mean, it's pretty damn clear. I think this is a good story here, American in Norway. I was in Norway recently and was getting a beer. I noticed one guy sitting at a huge table by himself, so I asked if I could share the table. He said, sure. I struck up a conversation with him, which apparently is not a common thing to do in Norway. And the conversation pretty quickly went to politics. This almost always happens when people find out I'm American. I like geopolitics and had decided to read up on Norwegian politics, so he was surprised that I knew anything. I asked him what Norwegians thought about Americans, which is always fun to ask in different countries. He told me that Americans are like our big dumb brother. They're loud and goofy, but if anything ever happens to us, they'll come out swinging. I suppose that's a compliment. But he did say we will literally strike up a conversation with anyone. So, yeah. I find this funny. I like how the country that modernized the world and beats everyone at everything is seen as dumb. Um, it's because we have allowed too much of a ideation on celebrity and other useless things while others suffer. I mean, honestly. But yeah, it's like I said, post World War II, baby boom generation is where a lot of this starts. And I agree with the guy, yeah. That's where we start seeing a lot of the stupid shit. And it's only progressed in America, which saddens me. For the brilliant minds we have as a nation, there is so much stupid shit. Anyway, let's look at a couple of charts here. We have how couples meet in the U.S. From How Couples Meet and Stay Together, a longitudinal study of social life in the U.S. So, yeah, from 1950 to 2020. A lot of it, you can see their connections. College was the lowest. It jumped a little bit over Neighbors. Neighbors took a dive, and it's just kind of been up and down with college. Grade school was actually higher at one point, but I guess that's because they're people you know. The bar, so you going out to the bar, meet people. It was at a high point in mid 80s, early 80s. Same with work. But always the biggest for the longest time was through friends. And late 90s, 2000 is where it hit its height. But it just nosedived after that point. Because back in the around 80, we had a slow start. Then in the mid 90s, it was just a perpetual climb for online. And it can often be pointed out that that has also ruined how many people meet as well, though, because as that climbed, look at all the others. They fall. Whether you used to meet through family, the bar, work, grade school, neighbors, college, or through friends. When online kind of starts really rising, especially around 2008 or so, you see all those die, hitting rock bottom while online goes. I'd say it's 2012, 2013, somewhere in that period. But yeah, that's yeah. Anyway, and this one I found interesting. Deadliest states for law enforcement. So, police enforcement. They have cause of death. So you can see it in the color charts. And often you hear, oh, the crime rate in big cities in the coastal elitist states. But where those uh 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 I guess Georgia's a coastal elitist state, if you want to say that. It's on the coast. North Carolina. But yeah, New York. The one supposedly coastal elitist state that's on this list. And it's because 9/11 illness. The rest of them are conservative bastions, showing there's a lot more violence and other things that go on in conservative states, despite them claiming, we're the party of law and order. No, you're the party of assholery. Period. Yeah. It's funny. Alaska. Look at the gunfire deaths in Alaska. Look at that shit. The next closest for gunfire is Mississippi. But it's still only about half what Alaska is. It's like, the fuck? gunfire, automobile tend to be the two biggest. Although there's some that have big others. It's like, what other things have been going on? New York, again, 9/11 terrorist. The dark blue is probably the several thousand who died on 9/11, who died during attempted bombings and other things. And then, of course, the illness from the collapse of the Trade Center. Them having heart attacks is the dark red. Utah doesn't have heart attacks for law officers. Interesting. There's always some vehicular assault. But yeah, gunfire and then vehicle crash tends to be the biggest taker of lives for law enforcement officers. But I find it interesting because you always hear, oh, those crime-ridden big cities and them blue states. Apparently it isn't, Dick. Anyway, let's look at some pictures here. First class section on the plane in the 1950s. This is first class on an airplane in the 1950s. Notice the leg room. You have room to lay back. I don't even think they have this much room on first class now. Oh, goodness. Hitler taking an afternoon nap in Bavaria in 1930. The reason I bring this image up, there's something we need to understand. He's human, just like anybody else. He's not a risen demon from the depths of hell. He is a human, just like you, like me, or anybody else. And I need people to remember this, because ultimately human beings tend to be flawed. Some, like Hitler, irretrievably flawed. This is not to excuse what he did at all. I just want you to understand that everybody who commits these evils tend to be someone who is no different than you and I, except for some ideation, for the most part, that has warped their thinking. I know it doesn't feel right to see him in that same light? But sometimes we need to understand that the biggest monsters sometimes are not those hiding in the dark. Sometimes they are very clear and present. Anyway, next thing we're going to look at political discussion. How much border security is enough for the Republican Party to move forward with immigration reform? It seems like for the last 20 years, whenever immigration is a topic, it always gets sidelined for a discussion about border security. Under every modern administration, border security has increased phenomenally without much change in the legalization process. My question is, how much border scrutiny is enough for Republicans? What threshold needs to be met with border security for Republicans to consider internal bureaucratic reform for immigrants? And I loved this as a topic. I thought it was a well placed one. And let's look at some of the responses here. They have not put a price tag on border security. That's not an accident. They keep turning down comprehensive immigration reform. I think they prefer it to be an unsolvable problem. Another post last week asked why we don't put real fines or jail time on employers who violate E-Verify. That would cut down on illegal immigration. No response from Republicans. Crickets. I think Biden should ask for the number, beat it, and add real teeth to employer penalties. Let them squirm. I absolutely agree. Immigration, like abortion, has to remain an unsolvable problem in order to keep those votes. If you solve that problem, well, you gotta find a new reason to get people to vote for you, and it takes actual work. The employer issue is one of the key reasons the GOP really doesn't want any actual immigration reform. They know that massive numbers of GOP friendly businesses, or businesses in general, are highly dependent on undocumented migrant labor to keep wages down, and don't really want to see a system where those workers have legal status and can demand more. They also definitely do not want to be held accountable for violating immigration law, which they pretty much are immune from now. All the enforcement and punishment is directed toward individual migrants, even if they are being actively recruited to come here illegally by some employer. Another major reason nothing has been done to fix the situation is because GOP lawmakers realized in the late 2000s, early 2010s, that immigration was a powerful wedge issue that was able to mobilize conservatives to vote, but not really left-leaning voters. That led to them blocking attempts at the time to pass immigration reform and pushing instead for vague, trivial solutions to physically block migrants as they signal that they are supposedly tough on immigration, while making it pretty likely the problem will just continue indefinitely. An example, a huge wall that nobody knows the details of or how it will really stop the flow of undocumented migrants, especially when half come here legally at first anyway. I would trust very few Republican members today in wanting a real solution to immigration or border security, since it has often turned into a winning issue for them to run on, despite offering essentially no solutions for solving the problem besides being tough. It's essentially what they did with Roe v. Wade until last year. Just kept punning and complaining about it and raising money on it. They haven't seemed to learn their lesson with that one, as it has cost them dearly electorally and will continue to do so. Yet they won't reverse course. Yep. There's 0 point. The goalpost will always be moved. The boogeyman of immigrants is a necessary ingredient in the authoritarian stew, even as actual illegal immigration is absolutely insignificant in the face of many other social and budgetary priorities. The goal is to instill fear, to drive engagement and votes. There could be 0 illegal immigrants, and the GOP would still be howling bloody murder about what a threat it is. There's no interest in solving problems, only in using fear and hate to enable grift and power. In the context of your comment, what does comprehensive immigration reform mean? They talk about this. But yeah, they're correct. The Republicans have nothing they could use as an actual thing to point to, say, this is what we must accomplish. No. As long as they can frighten their voters and get them to come out and vote for them, that's what they'll do. If you've ever looked at Republicans' actual policies, often there is nothing to markedly increase the lives of average Americans. I say average Americans because they love casting those fucking tax cuts that benefit the rich the greatest of all. People go, Donald Trump gave us a tax cut. 85% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1% of Americans. Guess again, it wasn't for you, dumbasses. If you are still so willing to suck him off, I don't know what else to tell you. You're dumb. You're a stupid fucking dumbass. But they don't want to listen. This is from Truthout. Trump made $160 million in foreign business deals as president. Speaking of the demon. Speaking of the fucking demon. Trump repeatedly broke his promise that his company wouldn't make new foreign business deals while he was in office. But guess what? Oops! That's what they did! He's a con man. He's always been a con man. Even when he proclaimed he was a Democrat, he's always been a con man. Former President Donald Trump made tens of millions of dollars in foreign business deals while he was in office, pointing to numerous potential conflicts of interest, a report from nonprofit Watchdog reveals. I mean, in all honesty, the man should be disqualified from running for office. But his followers lap this shit up. They're like, see how he triggers them libs? Durr! Durr! He knows how to trigger them libs. Boo! Boo! And Trump knows. He's playing to their stupidity. Honestly. And these fuckers just stay stupid. They don't care. And the rest of America gets fucked in the ass because of it. When the stupid fuck over the rest of America. That's why we got Trump last time. This is from the American Prospect. Republicans want to ban all abortions even if it kills mothers. The anti-choice mask comes off in Texas. Yeah, the Kim Cox case. Kate Cox. Yeah. Mother of two. Gets pregnant. Doctors tell her the baby more than likely won't survive. It's just the chances are unlikely at all. Because they gave it this certain condition. 95% of the time, it has effects that are fatal to the fetus. Those born alive, only about 5 to 10% make it to year 1. Ken Paxton, bitch extraordinaire, didn't like that the Supreme Court said, I understand what's going on, or the appeals court told the woman, I understand, yeah, you should have the right to abort this child. So, she gets a reprieve from a Texas judge to have an abortion. But Ken Paxton, bitch extraordinaire, first thing he does, he goes out of his fucking way to make sure that doesn't happen. Because he's one of the biggest fucking bitches in the fucking country. Aren't you glad some people are Republican? Fucking idiots. Goddamn fucking idiots. Okay, let's look at a couple stories more before we look into the videos. This is from The Lever. As climate summit closes, a single sentence offers hope. Last night, As North America slept, delegates from around the world concluded the Global Climate Conference in Dubai when the chair, local oilman Sultan Al Jaber, quick gabbled through an agreement that included a sentence calling for transitioning away from fossil fuels in energy systems in a just, orderly and equitable manner. This may not seem like much. It is, after all, the single most obvious thing one could possibly say about climate change, akin to the effort to reduce my headache. I am transitioning away from hitting myself in the forehead with a hammer. And by itself, it will accomplish nothing. As Samoa, speaking on behalf of the small island nations, said a few minutes later, we have come to the conclusion that the course correction that is needed has not been secured. While the one sentence is nice, it don't do much for us as a species, I'm afraid. It don't. From ProPublica. A tradition of service to the federal judiciary. The judiciary has policed itself for decades. It doesn't work. The secretive judicial conference is tasked with self-governance. The group, led by the Supreme Court's Chief Justice, has spent decades preserving perks, defending judges, and thwarting outside oversight. Well, this little, we plan to hold ourselves... No, fuck you. Fuck you. Too much bullshit has gone on. You need laws to force you to follow certain ideations. Period. That's just a fucking fact. And you're gonna have to fucking deal with it. I'm tired of letting them try to cover their own asses by doing what they want to say is, this is correct. No, fuck you. Fuck you all. But yeah. Let's watch some videos. Footage shows bodies piled up after Israeli attack on Gaza's school. Witnesses said a number of people, including women, children, and babies, were killed execution style by Israeli forces while sheltering inside the school.
We begin with harrowing images and testimonies obtained by Al Jazeera from inside a school in northern Gaza following an Israeli attack. Bodies of a number of displaced Palestinians are seen piled up inside the Shadia Abu Ghazala school, that's west of the Jabalia refugee camp. Witnesses say a number of people, including women, children, and babies, were killed execution style by Israeli forces while they were sheltering inside the school. Witnesses say they did not find any evidence of shelling or missile attacks.
The Israeli soldiers came in and opened fire on them. They took an old man. The Israeli soldiers stormed the school, took all the men, then entered classrooms and opened fire on a woman and all the children with her, even the newborn babies among them. She, her husband, and her 8 children, together with her cousin. The Israeli soldiers executed those innocent families at point blank.
The school buildings are totally destroyed. We found dozens of dead bodies in the classrooms. There is no sign of any missiles or shells. All those who were in the buildings were executed from point blank. The Israeli soldiers opened fire on them. Many families came searching for their children. They found them all killed. They were all killed, executed at gunpoint.
Hani Mahmoud is lifeless in southern Gaza. So Hani,
We'll go ahead and end it there. I just wanted you all to see that. Because that shows the barbarity of the Israel IDF and its government. They don't care about finding Hamas. That's not their real target. It never fucking has been. For them, it's about sweeping the area and getting the Palestinians to either leave or kick out the government heads that are there. And all you're doing is pushing them towards extremism. Fuck the Israel government and the IDF. Fuck Biden for backing them and giving them the fucking weapons. I fucking hate Trump, but fuck them both. Neither one gets my fucking vote. Welcome to the world of choice. Fuck Biden. Fuck Trump. Fuck the Israeli government. Here we go. We cry and hurt with the people of Gaza and Palestine. Let's always remember that Zionism is not Judaism. And this is coming from an Orthodox Jewish individual, Rabbi Yisroel David Weiss.
Mass slaughter in Gaza has nothing to do with the conflict between religions, between Judaism and Islam. We have been living together as Jews and Muslims for literally hundreds of years. Thousands of years we've been living together with Arab people. You can see how we live together. It's only an introduction of a political movement called Zionism, and it's using the name of Judaism to declare war on the people of Palestine, to declare and vilify the people of Palestine that they're anti-Semites, anti-Jews. That's totally repugnant and false. We cannot be silent. We're Jews. Because we're Jews, we have to stand up and say, this is not true. It's not in our name. We totally object to this. We cry and hurt with the people of Gaza and Palestine. This is not a religious state. It's not a Jewish state. They're using the name Israel. They're masquerading in the Star of David in the name Israel. This is a criminal entity.
See, they are trying their damnedest here in the States to cry that, oh, if you speak out against Zionism, you're being an anti-Semitic. You can't fucking be anti-Semitic when speaking out about Zionism, speaking against Zionism, because it's a political movement, not part of the religion. Other Jews, people of the Jewish faith, they're against Zionism. Are they anti-Semitic? Fuckheads. Fucking hate idiots. Okay, that was the same one we saw earlier, so we'll skip that. There is no question anymore of intent. Yeah. I think this is from Ireland. The guy sounds Irish, his accent does, but yeah.
I have a simple question for you. How many innocent Palestinian civilians, men, women and children, does Israel have to slaughter? How many war crimes does Israel have to commit? How much death and destruction does Israel have to visit on the people of Gaza and Palestine before you will call for and impose sanctions on Israel and expel the Israeli ambassador from this country and call for the immediate referral of Israel to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity and war crimes? Because in front of the world, by their own admission, Israel is committing war crimes. They have stated it publicly. This isn't a matter of opinion. They declared their intention to force, through the threat of military bombardment, more than 1 million, and it is now well more than 1 million, Palestinians from their homes in northern Gaza and ethnically cleanse them. A crime against humanity. They stated publicly, and have done it in front of the eyes of the world, the intention to deny to 2.2 million people water, electricity, medicine, life-saving equipment in front of the eyes of the world, and they're doing it. And every minute, children are being slaughtered by their artillery, their relentless bombardment of residential complexes, of hospitals, of schools, of civilian infrastructure. They just go on and on and on, and you do nothing. Nothing. Words of concern, but no action to hold them to account. And it is clearly premeditated war crimes and genocide. Genocide. We have Jewish people in the United States and Canada, around the world, and Israel calling it genocide. Scholars, academics saying this is genocidal. Let me quote you a few things. Israeli general, quote, "Human animals must be treated as such. There will be no electricity and no water. There will only be destruction." Yoav Gallant, a minister, says we are fighting human animals. We will, quote, "act accordingly. We will remove, quote, every restriction on the IDF." Smotrich, another minister, there is no such thing as the Palestinians. The president of Israel refers to the people of Gaza and says they are all responsible. Before October the 7th, Netanyahu appeared in front of the UN General Assembly with a map of Israel that had removed all references to Palestine. A clear declaration of intent to destroy the Palestinian people and steal all of their land. 6,000 Palestinians killed between 2008 before October the 7th. Thousands of Palestinians hostage in administrative detention without trial. When are you going to move beyond words of concern and impose sanctions and expel the Israeli ambassador of this apartheid murderous state?
Fucking exactly. Exactly. I mean, how people cannot understand that this is a vile moment in history. I don't understand it. This is not defense. How many people do you have to slaughter to say, oh, we've gone beyond defense? It's fucking ridiculous. Hot take. We live in an unofficial oligarchy. Back here, volume.
The 62 richest people in the world, most of whom are Americans, not all Americans, but most of whom are U.S. citizens. The 62 richest people together have more wealth than the bottom half of the population of this planet, roughly 3.5 billion people. That's beyond obscene. I don't know, I don't have an adjective that captures this, but I can describe what it means. If you look at all the statistics of the World Health Organizations, the bottom half of our population are people who die way earlier than they need to. Why? Because their diets are no good, or they don't have enough food in the first place, or they can't get to a clinic to have little problems that are easily solved by modern medical methods taken care of. It's unspeakable what happens to the lower half. If we took half the wealth of the richest, and they would still be the richest, and made it available to the bottom half, it would transform their lives, literally.
Yep, think about that. We live in a world where there is such avarice, such greed for monetary wealth, that half the planet suffers for it. Over half the planet suffers for it. He was just talking about the richest, what do you say, 87 people, 78 people, something like that, having more wealth than the bottom half of the planet. These are the kind of things that should not exist in a just society, in a just world. And then I like this. Yeah, man rejects a dumb question. It is a wonderful, wonderful video. I think this guy's trying to be either a troll or he's in college trying to work on some kind of stupid thesis or something. But yeah, the first guy he asks here just says, tells him straight out, that is a decision that makes no fucking sense. But yeah, let's watch the stupidity here.
LGBTQ rights or economic stability?
Why can't you have both?
You need to pick one.
I refuse the question.
You can't refuse the question.
I do.
But you can't.
But I did.
But you need to pick one.
No, I don't.
I just said you did.
So what?
Can you pick one?
No, because they're both doable.
No. Only one.
I don't have to pick one because you can have both.
But the answer is, both is not an answer. It's not a valid answer.
I reject your question.
You can't reject it.
I just did.
Can you pick one?
I don't have to.
Why?
Because they're both completely doable.
So LGBTQ rights or economic stability?
Both.
That's not an answer.
Yes, it is.
LGBTQ rights or economic stability?
Both.
Are you trying to troll me?
No.
'Cause I'm just wondering which one you like more.
I like them both.
You can't have both.
Yes, you can.
Not in this question.
Too bad.
Why are you trolling me right now?
Because I don't have to choose.
All right, what if I had to ask you gender inclusivity or economic stability?
You can have both.
You can't. Why you make this so difficult? I'm trying to pass my final.
Too bad.
Which one do you pick?
I'd pick them both.
But that's not a valid answer.
Too bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
I fucking love that. Yeah. Rights for human beings and a stable economy are not separate things. Providing rights to individuals does not make the economy worse. That's not how economics works, dumbass. I can't understand why he thought this was such a valid question. Even picking that as an option. The professor ought to go, where the fuck did you get this as a connection? Oh, fucking stupid. Oh, jeez almighty. Oh, goodness. This is just one of the dumbest. I gotta watch this again. Just everything is so stupid, and I don't understand how he thinks it is a valid question.
LGBTQ rights or economic stability?
Why can't you have both?
You need to pick one.
I refuse the question.
You can't refuse the question.
I do.
But you can't.
But I did.
But you need to pick one.
No, I don't.
I just said you did.
So what?
Can you pick one?
No, because they're both doable.
No. Only one.
I don't have to pick one because you can have both.
But the answer is both is not an answer. It's not a valid answer.
I reject your question.
You can't reject it.
I just did.
Can you pick one?
I don't have to.
Why?
Because they're both completely doable.
So LGBTQ rights or economic stability?
Both.
That's not an answer.
Yes, it is.
LGBTQ rights or economic stability?
Both.
Are you trying to troll me?
No.
I'm just wondering which one you like more.
I like them both.
You can't have both.
Yes, you can.
Not in this question.
Too bad.
Why are you trolling me right now?
Because I don't have to choose.
All right, what if I had to ask you gender inclusivity or economic stability?
You can have both.
You can't. Why you make this so difficult? I'm trying to pass my final.
Too bad.
Which one do you pick?
I'd pick them both.
But that's not a valid answer.
Too bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just, yeah. The guy told him, says they're both doable. They are not opposites. Why? I mean, that don't even make sense as a fucking valid project question. This has to be one of the dumbest fucking. Oh my god. Oh fuck. They are not mutually exclusive. And thus are not a valid, sensible choice. What the fuck? Anyway, let's go ahead and end this episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.